we talk about psychological safety from the point of view of employees feeling safe to speak out. But in the book and the research, we think there's another dimension to that, which is the psychological safety of leaders going into listening, because they're worried about things that might be said, or how well they're going to be able to respond. So it works both ways. Although I don't want to stretch that point too far, because obviously the main issue is employee psychological safety. There's no easy answer to this. None.
I think it's quite complex. It is complex in schools and trusts, and that's my background. I have done a bit of work in business as well, and seeing similar things where there's layers, and when there's maybe a trust and schools, and then you've got the middle managers, and then you've got the people on the ground. There's a lot of human interactions in a quite hierarchical structure in schools that really does make things a little bit more difficult in many ways, when I've been doing some research and work in businesses that are a little bit more simply organized. So yeah, I don't know what you may think about that comment.
I'll just Kevin, before you come in, I'll just add a complicating factor, which is with trusts you have that sort of hierarchy, but you also have a geographical split. So there's sort of a central trust, there might be a kind of then there'll be a layer of leaders that are the school heads of different at different locations, and then there's a hierarchy within that as well. So it goes sort of levels down and also levels outwards, which I think is an extra complicating factor.
I think some of the research that I did for my PhD was based in 2 public sector organisations, and one was a housing authority. I had 5 case study organisations, 2 private sector, 2 public, and I think the levels of bureaucracy, or the layers of management levels, certainly very different. Well, not so much now, but they were different. But I think, if I'm honest, my experience of psychological safety is it's more acute in public sector organisations than it is in private sector organisations. And I know that may sound like a sweeping generalisation, but I do think there's some data that suggests this is the case. And I don't know why that is, but it does make it more complicated. If there's more acute levels of psychological safety in a certain organisation, then it's a far difficult issue to tackle. I mean, the only real way, in my view, is to just do the legwork on a day in, day out basis. Where managers of all levels, middle, line manager, senior leaders, are all behaving in a way that's conducive to good listening. And it's fundamental not to close conversations down, not to be dismissive, but more than that, not to be vindictive. And this does come up. Employees will say they're very worried because so and so has said something, and within the next period of time, something happened to them. This is not isolated. It's a big issue to change the culture and mindset of leaders and managers so that they become good listeners. It really is. It's a massive challenge. And I think the reason is, as I said before, no one is really teaching or training managers or leaders to do this on a large scale. So it's a big problem, I'm afraid. I can't give you an easy, quick answer. But, I think that's why, for me, having systems and processes in place is a counterbalance to poor leadership listening. Sometimes, leaders get forced to listen if systems and processes are in place. They cannot avoid it, and I know that's not the way to do it, right? Of course not. But you are starting to put leaders into positions where they have to look and respond to processes and systems and reports of what people are saying. That isn't the ideal way of getting them to do it, but it can fall. I've seen that happen where they suddenly become, they see they have to do something.